You're listening to the Next Wave Radio Network.
Round one, fight!
Can't we do our own secret shows?
All our shows are secret shows.
We have the tools, we have the talent.
You have to use so many cuss words.
Let's go!
Ooh, yeah!
This is the Low Res High Def podcast on the Next Wave Radio Network, where we come to talk about just about anything. And what you may or may not have missed at this point is probably a good 30 minutes of Indiana Jones / Harrison Ford conversation that I'm hoping we could put together as like a little bonus episode to whet your beak for our eventual Indiana Jones episode when the new, I almost said Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Oh my God.
Bite your tongue.
When the Dial of Destiny finally hits theaters. This week, we're going to be talking about toys. I'm joined by Joel Burnson, as always. Hello, Joel.
Hello, hello.
And this week's special guest, Jason Geyer, has joined us to talk about toys. And Joel tells me he's somewhat of an expert. What's your social media handle again? It's like Toy Owl or something?
Toy Owl.
Toy Otter.
ToyOtter.com.
Yes, you can find me at Instagram.com/ToyOtter.
Nice.
There we go. And I feel like anybody who's got toy in their web handle has got something, unless you like driving Toyotas, then I'm completely off.
No, and you know, to be honest, I'm not even terribly partial to otters, but it was just in the early days of the internet, I was just looking for something catchy that hadn't been taken as a domain at the time, and just stumbled on it, and it sounded good.
You say that, but you do like cute furry animals. I saw you post something recently.
That's a fetish, but yes, I do.
Ewoks with big boobs.
They are nice and cute. I am more partial to Hyraxes. I will say that.
Oh, yeah?
I do like the Hyrax. They're very interesting. Closest living relative to the elephant and the manatee.
Oh, I know those.
But they're small and they're furry and they look like rabbits.
Oh.
No, but ever since, yes, I get sent every kind of otter meme and have been given a million plush otters over the years because people think I have an affinity for otters, especially, but it's just a name.
Good alliteration.
But he has nothing of that sort behind him in this. Well, he does have a porg on the shelf behind him there.
I do have a porg. I that's my one concession to the travesty of The Last Jedi.
But, come on. Stop now.
Yes.
I do enjoy the porgs.
We're going to get along just fine, I think.
I've made a grave mistake.
So today we're going to talk about toys, but before we get into it, every episode we talk about what our current obsession. When we do this weekly, we talk about our obsession of the week. So Joel, why don't you go ahead and kick off? What have you been obsessed with?
Sure. Well, it was going to be Indiana Jones, but we already kind of exhausted that talk. No, but I'm glad because I do have a backup. I was trying to decide between that and Batman because Joe, ever since our episode last week where we talked about Saturday morning and weekday cartoons from the 80s and 90s, listen to that episode if you're at all interested in that. And I kind of figured this would be a bit of a companion episode. But ever since then, one of the cartoons we talked about was Batman, the animated series. And so when I was doing research for that episode, I was watching some clips and being reminded of that. And then I read something. I've just been inundated with Batman through social media. Saw an article about one of those listicles. I love the listicles, the top ranking the Batman suits in all the films from like the last 20 years or so, which I didn't realize how bad some of those were. It really makes you appreciate where we are now.
Which one's your favorite?
I kind of dug one of the Ben Affleck Batman outfits. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe from.
I'm with you. He wears one from some of the footage from the new Flash movie. He's got one that looks like it's kind of
it's the old Adam
throwback
West
to the blue and gray.
Yeah,
the Adam West is like the blue and grayish. And man, I always love that color palette for Batman. And maybe it's being an '80s kid, but I always dug that color palette. And they made it look really good.
Yeah, that ranked high. I thought a little more realistic, a little more tactical gear. I think than what Adam West was wearing, but so had that list, and then just today with the new Nintendo Direct. I'm not sure if you watched that or not, but one of the announcements they had there were the Arkham Asylum games. That trilogy is all being ported to Nintendo Switch, coming out soon. So opening that up to a whole new audience who haven't played them. I've got them on Xbox. Love that first one. I haven't played the others, but all look amazing, and
they're all pretty strong. No, they're all pretty strong games. I mean, there was I can't remember who the company was. There was another company that did one called Arkham Origins. So it was kind of the same basic gameplay, but like you can always tell when like another company kind of comes in and tries to do the same thing that Rocksteady's done, and it's just not quite the same thing. Yeah. And that's kind of what Origins is like. But if you're ever jonesing to get a little bit more, kind of like when we were talking about Phoenix Rising, like if you were jonesing for more Zelda before Tears of the Kingdom came out, Phoenix Rising is a suitable substitute, but it really can't replace the real thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been my obsession this week, Batman, and especially with Michael Keaton coming back. I know you guys have already seen the movie. I don't care what the reviews say. I had decided long ago I wanted to see this because any opportunity to see Michael Keaton back in that cowl, I'm there.
Well, I don't think it's spoiling anything to divulge that like it is clearly one of the bright points of the film.
All right, of course,
most definitely.
How could it not be good?
So how about you, Jason? You have something that you're obsessed with recently?
Yes. Obsessed, frustrated. Is going to double as a plug.
They go hand in hand.
So Joel knows I work with Joel in the day job, and then before I went into the advertising industry, I worked in the toy industry for a number of years. I co-founded two of the biggest toy websites, one of the first ones online way back in the day. So I've been around the industry for quite some time, but then about 17 years ago, I went back in the ad agency world because the toy industry is just frustrating and will break your heart. So I left.
Oh, no.
This will be fun.
Yeah. The end.
Like by the end of this podcast, he's gonna be crying, downing like another bottle of whiskey.
But through various reasons, mainly during the pandemic, I finally broke down and taught myself how to digitally sculpt and just started doing it. If you go to my Instagram, you can see all these fake toys. I started making fake toys of the 80s that never existed, trying to make them look as good as possible. These fake toys.
Wow.
And I still have a lot of friends in the industry and guys that do a lot of these little indie toy lines. And weirdly, one thing led to another. And so this past year, I actually, we didn't do a Kickstarter, but we did a partnership with Big Bad Toy Store where if we got a certain number of pre-orders, they would fund the line. And we did. We crossed the line on our first thing, and we got a whole bunch of indie comic licenses. And so what we're doing is a line of action figures that are in the style of Kenner Superpowers from the 80s. So they're completely compatible. Amazingly, I was doing a very tiny bit of consulting with McFarlane Toys on their Superpowers relaunch, which we had already started.
I've got several of them.
When they came back. And then my friends at Boss Fight Toys decided to launch Superpowers and got a gut check from me on that for the Phantom and Flash Gordon and stuff. And none of them knew I was already working on a Superpower style line that was about to launch. So it just amazing timing, but we all have these renaissance of Superpowers coming out. So we've got, it's a test shot. There's the Tick.
The Tick. Oh my God.
So
that looks
we got the
great.
Tick. This is
amazing because I saw these renders that you showed me ahead of time, Jason, that you did.
You haven't seen these. So this is Cassie Hack from Hack Slash, which is a comic that's done pretty well. Tim Seal, really great guy.
For the listener at home, Jason is holding these up for his webcam so that we can see the brilliance. It's really awesome.
And of course, the crown jewel of the assortment.
The Rocketeer.
Got the Rocketeer, first time in 5-inch scale. Looks very much like a Kenner figure.
Yeah, it does.
And
that's awesome.
But it's not just the Rocketeer. It's the comic Rocketeer. So it's got his comic jetpack, not the one that was redesigned by Joe Johnson, those guys for the movie with the double, whatever they call rockets.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's great. So this is a test shot. So that's why it's different plastic. They just use the plastic on hand. So whoops. So I've been working on these nights and weekends for a year. Every night I'm dealing with the factory in China. Now, again, they start sending communications at like 11, 12 at night because it's their morning.
That's fun.
And then I stay up doing stuff. But we have like a black and white set coming out, like we're calling it the newsreel set.
Ooh, I like that. That's awesome.
So yeah,
really cool.
These came out really nice. But the really cool thing, so Dave Stevens created the Rocketeer. and he died sadly.
Rest in peace.
About 10 years ago. But his sister runs the estate. Wonderful, wonderful person to work with. She's been fantastic.
Yeah.
But what she let us do was she let us create a bunch of our own characters for the Rocketeer universe, kind of like Kenner would used to put in their own guys. So we'll see if you can see the
awesome.
helmet. This is the Black Phantom. And you see the helmet looks more evil and like it's more like hand done. It's really rough.
That's awesome.
I'll put a little dent in there as a nod to Boba Fett. We've got...
Dude, Joel, you're going to have to get some shots of this so that way we could post this up.
We'll put these on the Facebook page.
Got the evil trooper. That's the Commandant.
Does he have an eye patch?
Yeah, like a monocle. It looks
black. Yes, he's got a monocle.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kind of looks like a futuristic Nazi.
And I don't know. Do I have here's a trooper.
Dude, that is sick.
Yes, so we have a whole bunch of these stormtrooper kind of characters that, if you remember in the movie,
I do.
Like when they showed the Hitler ones all flying. So these are roughly, they don't look the same, but they're roughly based on that concept.
But yeah, those helmets, that's great.
But we've got like a desert trooper, fire trooper. So we have a winter trooper. It's all in white and blue. Yeah. And so all the jetpacks are different colors. We have silver jetpacks and all that. So
will these all be available for sale then? Is that the ultimate goal?
Ish. Well, maybe. They were available for sale because we had to do everything pre-order to get the money to produce them. So they were.
But now, you're shit out of luck if you wanted to buy them now, right? Yes.
So all the Rocketeer figures have sold out.
What?
Here's a pilot. We called Spy Captain.
Look at that, Spy Captain.
Because there's a 1930s comic character called Spy Smasher, who was basically like this. And Sky Captain was kind of a combination of all that. But what's fun is when I posted this, Kerry Conran, the director the designer of all the Sky Captain stuff, wrote on my Instagram,
awesome.
And he was like, "That's really cool."
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so we had a little back and forth. It is surprising that the notes I get from different people.
So you can see, Joe, why I've asked Jason to be on this episode, because not only does he know a lot about toys, but he makes them, and
we're hoping to have some big licenses for the second wave. But so the Rocketeers are sold out. The license period was very limited, because that goes back and forth with Disney and everything. And so this was, again, with the estate, they let us do this little carve out, get all these different characters out there. So we could only offer them for X amount of time before they renegotiate the big contracts. We're hoping it will come back around.
Please let me know.
So everything that's not Rocketeer is still for sale on Big Bad Toy Store. And you can get to links on my Instagram and stuff.
Okay, cool.
But we're hoping, like I said, if the license comes back around, we're hoping to be able to do a movie series and do Betty, do Lothar,
that'd be great.
Neville Sinclair.
Nice. Now, would you be able to have the likenesses of the actors that portrayed them, or probably not, right?
I think-ish. We're definitely doing an unmasked Rocketeer, too. I think so, because I think all of that is covered in their contracts. So that was kind of, especially for a lot of these, that was kind of standard. If you didn't have like a Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy situation, everybody else in that movie signs their rights for merchandise over. Wow. Like Harrison Ford can't approve anything for Star Wars or Indiana Jones.
No, really?
Mark Hamill doesn't approve anything. Well, no, Lucasfilm pretty famously says, you want to be part of these movies. Yeah. Like you're signing us, we will deal with the likeness issues.
That's interesting, because in this day of where they're bringing deceased actors back, or younger versions of actors.
Well, it's in large part it's because of how the IPs are. I'm going to guess Marvel is the same way, where they may get a courtesy check, but I don't think they see any of it. I think Marvel's the one that deals with all of it. Disney deals with all of it. I've dealt with Disney a lot over the years, and they do that, but you really don't have those kind of things. Where you get into likeness issues in this day and age are the movies nobody bothered to do rights for, because no one thought anything would ever happen like this. So like you do a Godfather. Well, of course, no one ever said, hey, James Caan.
We're going to make action figures of Sonny Corleone getting shot in the toll booth.
Yeah, we're going to make action figures.
He comes with a cannoli.
But he leaves the gun.
So it's that kind of thing where... Yeah, they have to go to a state. They have to dig up the actors. Or James Bond for that matter. have always been like historic standouts that just don't want toys made of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's nearly impossible to do it. And a lot of times too, if it's a movie, they'll make something that's roughly like that person, but it won't have they won't even try to get a likeness.
Yeah. It's easier that way.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up James Bond, because I think the primary focus for the episode today is kind of talking about, like Joel said, a companion piece to our cartoon episode from last week, where we kind of talked about the cartoons that made us, for lack of a better term, the stuff that we grew up on and shaped what it is that we look for now. And, you know, I think the thing that went hand in hand with those cartoons were the toys.
Absolutely.
You know, the toys that went along with it, the Transformers, G.I. Joes, He-Man. You know, those were my bread and butter. And I remember in the 80s, another thing that really shaped like the toys that I played around with, like I don't know why. I don't know why this was a thing, and maybe you can answer this, Jason, but there seemed to be this like short term where every toy had like holograms on it. Like there was a holographic image on the chest. There were the Visionaries.
I can tell you exactly what happened.
Please.
So now this is conjecture. I can't tell you exactly what happened. I can tell you what I think happened.
Nice disclaimer.
Well, now he's backpedaling.
Wow.
He's stepping it back.
Yeah, I gotta give you a little background, and I'll tell you why I think it happened. So one thing in the toy industry a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot of things, huge hit toys that aren't necessarily developed by the companies that make them. There's a lot of independent inventors out there, even today. Even you, if you're an inventor, you can walk into Hasbro and said, I've come up with this new idea. I'm going to license it to you. I'm going to get a chunk of this, or you're going to pay me outright, and we're going to create this toy. And there was a guy, I'm going to get the name wrong. I want to say it's Marvin Glass.
I love his music.
I'm going to look that up. So, brother of Philip. One does toys. Yeah, so Marvin Glass and Associates was a very famous like agency that did nothing but toy inventions. And
now, when you say inventions, what does that mean to the layman and me?
Okay,
because I don't understand either.
So, well, a lot of times they would just bring either fully formed toys, like say a Slinky.
Okay,
that's an invention. Like someone didn't sit around saying, "What's going to be the next big thing?" Maybe it's a spring. It's someone.
Norville Barnes came up with the hula
that's
hoop.
exactly it. And a lot of it is just like how that kind of stuff happened. Is these people were messing around their shop. The spring shot out. It went down a set of stairs by accident.
Almost injured a child, and they thought, "Oh, that'd be a great toy."
Yeah, this might be fun. And then they took it around to everybody, and one company bit, and they ended up making Slinkies. But the people who designed it, that they weren't in the toy industry. So Marvin Glass did things like the Mousetrap game and Ants in Your Pants, the Evel Knievel stunt cycle.
Well, he came up with that?
Yeah, Wall Walkers, Smash Up Derby, Man of a Thousand Faces, Mad Marbles, Great Garloo, Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yes.
Wow.
Silly Putty.
Whoa. This guy is prolific.
And it's for every, and it's all the different companies: Marx, Mattel, Matchbox, Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, Whitman. You know, I'm going down the list of this. So that's what they would do. So you have a lot of inventors. So what I would say when we go back to the holograms is, I'm going to say somebody came up with that for the first time and took it around to the toy companies and said, I want to license my technology. I've got a new piece of technology I want to license. And everyone saw it and said, wow, that's amazing. We've never seen holograms before. Yeah. So that year, next year, you've got all these toy lines that suddenly are incorporating holograms. And it's funny because I'm recreating some Kenner toys that never got produced for Superpowers, and one of them has a hologram on his chest. It's just bizarre. The character doesn't have a hologram. It's El Dorado from the Super Friends cartoon. We're not sure what it would be because there's just concept
the
art.
last person to have a hologram.
He spins around, and so we're just not sure why they put a hologram on his chest. But I've seen the prototype. It was carved with like a flat circle to put a sticker of a hologram there.
Wow.
Exactly like Visionaries and these guys.
Yeah, Visionaries had like dudes would have shields with like tigers that were in it, and like, you know, the cartoon that went along with it, the animals came out of the shields or came out of the weapons. Then there was something called, I think, Beast Battlers, where each of these beasts had like an element. Like you look at it, and one had fire, one had water, and it signified what kind of tribe it was. Even I guess it kind of was a takeoff of the same idea when Transformers. And I don't know how long this lasted, but Transformers had like the you did the heat activated. You rubbed the logo to see if they were actually a Decepticon or an Autobot.
I remember that.
It was a weird level of interaction with the toys that was like, okay, this is a little extra. We didn't have to go this far, but like, this is a fun new selling point. And God knows they were just slapping those logos on old toys that they had already sold that were just sitting around. They're like, how do we move these bumblebees? Put a logo on it.
We were kind of lousy with heat activated technology stuff back there in the late 80s. I remembered it spilled over into clothing with the what was it called? Hypercolor, that's what they called it. Hypercolor, remember that? So when you sweat, your armpits turn pink. That's what I had.
You had mood rings. You had
yes.
Yeah. But that's what it is. Someone comes up with something, and one company doesn't have the patent. Everybody's licensing its technology, so everybody's trying to get in on that gravy train while it's a fad.
Wow.
When I was designing fast food toys, my boss, when I first got into it, and I knew nothing about it, and he would tell me, because I, of course, want to just design, hey, it's a Batman figure.
Yeah.
And he'd say, no, these toys, they always have to have two things. They have to do two different things. So it can't be a Batman. It has to be a Batman that's also a magnifying glass so he can solve crimes. That kind of thing. Batman that comes across, apart, and he does that. And I remember I didn't quite get the concept. And the first thing, because my old coworkers still joke about it, the first thing I proposed, we were doing generic toys, and I came up with mythological monster detectives. And everyone was just staring at me, and I was like, well, it's like a Loch Ness monster that's a squirter, so it reveals the clues, and it's a Bigfoot that's a stamper.
This is amazing.
Awesome.
And they all solve mysteries, and they were looking at me, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, well, you said it had to do two things, so they're crime fighters that are monsters. He's like, no.
They meant literally be a magnifier.
They meant the toy had to have two functions. Yeah.
I like your version better, though.
I do too, man.
And I'll say,
Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot teaming up.
Yeah, years later, when I was, and it was like a Yeti with an ice slider you put in the fridge, and then you could like his feet were encased in ice, and you could shoot him across the table.
Nice.
Trying to think what else I had, but Mothman. I had a Mothman that flew, or it was a glider or something. When I was at Wendy's years later doing the toys, I desperately tried to bring that back, and again, they weren't having it.
Oh, dude, that's I'll tell you, I think we grew up in like a golden age. Joel and I grew up in a golden age of like the fast food toys.
Oh, man.
Like,
Happy Meals.
The stuff that my kids get now are trash. And I wonder if like I wonder if that's just because I was of an age where I'm like, oh, I really appreciate, I like this. This speaks to me. But like we had this Muppet Babies line that still to me is legendary. We had the McDonald's Transformers where it's like you got a thing of fries that turns into a robot, and it's like this is awesome. Like there are these old fast food toys from back in the day that as a 45-year-old man, I'm like, man, I still wish I had that on my shelf. That was pretty sharp. I liked that one. Now
I can explain that too.
Please explain it, because my kids come home now with like weird Little Mermaid stuff, and like it seems like all the McDonald's toys now are supposed to be like trains, and you just connect them, and like they're just supposed to like go and hop, and I'm like, that's not fun for me. So I want to play with these too.
Yeah. So what the basic fact of that is, and a lot of the stuff, it's what happens to toys in general, unfortunately. There's, again, I'm going to give you a 4-part answer to this.
We'll cut it all out.
The big answer is the Iraq War happened.
What?
And
it did, Joel.
So
it was in the 90s.
The Iraq War happened, and therefore we have no toys. No, the price of oil shot through the roof, and plastic's made of oil. Oil takes shipping from China. At the same time, we start cracking down on China for human rights violations and stuff. So no longer could they work like 3 shifts around the clock in every factory. Like they had to let them go home at some point.
All of our toys are tainted, Joe.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. So
get those kids back in the factory.
Yeah, that's it. We can't beat up the kids in the factory anymore.
Small price to pay, right?
To make your kids toys.
Get back to work.
Wow. We've gone soft.
But the
McDonald's
big
got woke.
issue with it is you see these at the same time, mid 2000s, you see these huge price spikes in toys in general, whereas an action figure used to be $3 or $4, $5, $6, whatever. Now they're $15, $20, $30. Yeah, because everything shot through the roof.
Wow.
Part of it was, and we're seeing it with inflation now, Walmart kept the price so artificially low for so long, canceling out inflation. That's why we had very low inflation, because they just kept getting more efficient. They kept driving everyone else out of business. Then they'd use their economies of scale to drive prices down at the vendors, that when those floodgates broke and everybody could raise prices and get away with it, they all shot the price way up to make up for all the lost prices. We're seeing that same cycle again right now, where everyone's using the guise of inflation, even if they're making record profits, to jack the price way up, because they know they're not going to be able to do it going forward.
Yep.
So that was a big thing. Why it affected fast food toys so much was because you can't charge more for them. They're a $1 add-on to go in the kids' meal. So the only thing you can do is dumb down the toy, because you're paying so much more in costs, but you can't get that money back by charging the consumer. You know, so that's a big thing.
Ain't nobody going to pay $20 for a Jack in the Box antenna.
No, and those basically went away. Although I don't know if anyone has radios anymore with satellite radio and stuff. So
I loved those. I missed that.
They were great. True. I worked for Jack in the Box also for a while. That was my very first job in the toy industry. Yeah, that's
fantastic advertising.
It's
great marketing.
That's why I moved to Dallas, because the toy company was based in Dallas, and I guess Jack in the Box was San Diego. But anyway, the second thing is internet happened. So the instant outrage of parents became much more of an issue. That overlaps when I was at Wendy's, and they had a zero complaint policy. So anytime someone complained about anything, we could never make that toy again. So one of the things is
that's everything.
We had little snow globes, and we had you remember water games? We could make water games pretty cheap.
I love those.
It was the same thing. You have the little pumps and the little X's and O's
and
rings on the thing. Yeah,
love those.
Or make a basketball go in the hoop. Yeah.
Well, if you're getting them at a fast food place, they're not filling them up there, so they have to be packaged in China, filled in China and sealed.
Yeah.
So if you have one that leaks, it only takes one parent to say, my kid drank Chinese water.
Oh no.
Whether they got sick or not, for then the word to filter down to us.
Got the water from China.
No more water toys.
Oh, come on.
We had a case where we had these great Looney Tunes pens, and they had little vibrators in them. No jokes.
You don't even have to finish that story. I know this is where this is going.
But you turn them on and you write and you get a wavy line, right?
I love the thought behind that, though. Like, hey, kids, you want to learn to write like Michael J. Fox?
Yeah.
Here's a pen that
vibrates. Man. That's not where I thought the jokes were going. Let me just say that up front.
Yeah, that's a tape.
It's like Reddit now. Some kids got them and wrote all over the backseat of their grandparents' car, because they gave them the pens on the way home.
Not on the leather.
That was it. We're never allowed to do pens again because the people complained.
I love that isn't like the responsibility of the adult that gave them the pen. Like,
you would think.
Come on, Joe. This is America.
With the internet, with all that kind of stuff, basically things got a lot tamer. Like, no one wanted to make deals. No one wanted to do anything. And then the big thing is kids got into video games. And when you have the dumbed down toys,
now I feel responsible.
They don't want the toys as much, and they're not as fun, and they don't have the big licenses necessarily. And so all that feeds back into the kid would rather play a video game. So all of it means less money for toys. Like, a lot of them just do paper now, or they do the same molds they bring back and recolor. Really, McDonald's. Or you get those
shitty Kinder eggs with these quote unquote toys.
I can't believe you're talking bad about Kinder eggs.
They're like the IKEA of toys.
My daughter loves those, and they're horrible.
Here's a bunch of parts inside of Kinder eggs that, first of all, the chocolate's
Kinder
awful.
Makes so much money.
And then here, make your own toy.
Well, wasn't there like a listeria outbreak with the Kinder eggs like a year or two ago?
Probably. Kinder eggs were not allowed in the U.S. for a long, long time because it couldn't be swallowable. In fact, I used to have this at the office, Joel. I don't know if I ever showed it to you, but I used to have my choke tube on the little thing in my office next to me, a little shelf. and it used to creep people out. So what a choke tube is it's literally like a little clear plastic child's esophagus. And when you're designing something, it either has to fall straight through without touching the sides or too big to ever even get remotely in it. So you always have your choke tube when you're designing.
Why would that creep people out, Jason? I don't understand.
I know. So I don't know. I mean, doesn't everyone have a choke tube?
No, I never saw your choke tube, Jason.
So yeah. So see, the more you learn.
Yeah, it's educational.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned how video games added to like the decline of these fast food toys. I think there are a few fast food outlets that tried to do like some little handheld digital, like I wouldn't call them games, but kind of like if you remember the electronic games from like the late 80s, early 90s, where it was like you weren't really controlling a character, you were just moving on to the next, the Tiger games, moving on to the next little like animated bit or whatever. And I remember there were a couple of fast food restaurants that did that. I think like McDonald's did like a Crash Bandicoot or something like that. Now, is that something that's designed and produced the same way, or are you then
probably not?
Okay,
so something like that, and I think someone even tied into the Tamagotchis and stuff. That would be a licensing deal with Tiger or Tamagotchi. So for those months, literally, like the agency doing the toys might have input, and definitely Burger King or whoever would be doing them would have input into what they were going to get made. But a lot of that stuff, to nothing's super unique. It's going to be repurposed. We did, when I was at Burger King, right when I started, so I had very little to do with it, but I was there, we did these X-Men CD games.
Oh.
So they got some off-the-shelf CD games, CD-ROMs, and reskinned them with X-Men and put those out. So those are pretty cheap to produce. But those were the toys. Like, I think they had like a little
CD.
Non-movable figurine of like 4 characters, and then you got a CD. Yeah, because it's shiny objects. I mean, execs were always super, super impressed by shiny objects.
That seems so dated now.
I think there was like a Backstreet Boys web, like you got codes with the little Backstreet Boys figures. Like Stan Lee was doing a cartoon or something with them, and yeah, you can go online and play like a game that someone did that unlocked it. So they tried.
Rest in peace. Bet you won't see that in the documentary on Disney Plus.
No.
they gloss right over that.
That or Stripperella, all his wonderful ideas.
And then there was the time that I teamed with the Backstreet Boys. Oh yeah, I remember that.
They're like real life superheroes. Rest in peace.
Yes,
No.
Well, this is outstanding. I couldn't have even imagined like
this is why I brought him on
your
here.
breadth of experience and your knowledge when it comes to this stuff.
I think I've shown you this, Joel. We were talking about cartoons. I'll just bring him up.
That?
This is my favorite. This is Al Jolson, my favorite Warner Brothers cartoon ever.
I like to see
Jolson.
about
yeah, this is exactly it.
End of June, end of spring.
So
I like to sing it.
Never had anything, so I felt like sculpting one. I'm going to paint some.
That's so great. So you've 3D printed this, right? This is how this works?
Yeah. So I sculpt them, and then I 3D print them and clean them and then paint them.
And when you say sculpt them, to be clear, like you're doing it on your computer using some software.
Digitally, right? 100%. Yes.
So you're doing it all from scratch? I know sometimes you like find models of others and then you kind of modify them from there to add your own.
Yeah, that something like that or Mappy is 100% from scratch. And all of these guys are basically 100% from scratch.
Wow.
So this is what took me 4 years of teaching myself.
Which is amazing because it looks
so good. It looks like the superpowers line.
I that's the thing is I do have a huge background in toy design and being an art director for all of this. We hired sculptors because I was never good enough. My hand skills aren't that great, but the brain skills are good. So learning digital where the computer's my bitch, I'm much better than if I had to push this around with clay and everything. So,
oh man, can you imagine like what you would have been doing with this stuff in your youth had you had the technology?
There's a 3D print with that. It's a Lobo.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that.
Yes,
you know Lobo.
I saw that recently on your Instagram page. This is your latest creation, Lobo.
So these will at some point I'll eBay them or whatever, but I put in magnets for the articulation. So
dude,
totally posable. They're nice. They're solid.
That's so cool. And there's something about that superpowers line is so iconic.
Mhm.
And I remember walking down the aisle in a Walmart and seeing that classic packaging immediately grabbed my eye. I think it was on an end cap.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What is this? And I grabbed Superman, Batman, and they ended up releasing like Wonder Woman later on, The Flash. One of the things that I was so heartbroken, and it's so stupid, but I was so heartbroken because one of the things obviously that you loved about the superpowers line was like the action, squeezing the legs and making Superman punch. And, are we going to get back to something like that? Or do you think that
Never.
No, it's just a little too complex?
Never. And I'll tell you why.
Because of the Chinese water, right?
It's because of Chinese water. Because, and that's what's funny, is there are a lot of people that were really mad when the McFarlane stuff did not have the action features, and even people kept writing me and saying, oh, can you squeeze their legs? Can you do stuff? And I was like, sure, you squeeze their legs, and their legs will pop off.
Not what I think they meant.
So, well, the cool thing is, people don't know, we made all the parts interchangeable. So we can have like a library of parts for the next few waves, because tooling this is very expensive. But also, if you want to customize and mix and match, you can just pop the arms and legs off.
That's awesome.
So cool.
But yes, so action features, those mechanisms, super expensive. So I am, not to brag, but I'm the foremost expert in the superpowers line. I was the guy that unveiled all of the stuff that no one had ever seen back in the 90s.
Really?
And had the first archive. And so if you see any information online, almost all of it came from me, even if they don't credit me now, because the internet.
Is it true that Cyborg is the rarest of the figures?
I'm not sure. Is he?
Oh, look at this guy!
Wow,
Oh my
he's got
god!
it right there.
So yes, he is. And I'll tell you about superpowers. So I actually have a big article at some year coming out, but I've been interviewing the guys that are still around who designed the lines and set them up and everything to get the full scoop. So what happened was, Superpowers came out in '84, and they Kenner wanted it to be a huge hit. Star Wars was winding down. They needed something really big. There was a huge bidding war for DC Comics because, of course, DC was the prize, not Marvel.
Exactly.
Because at you think early '80s, people were like, X-Men, who the hell are the X-Men?
Of course.
Especially if you're talking to non-kid comic collectors, they know who Spider-Man is. They may know Captain America. They may know Hulk.
Yeah, but that's it.
Everything past that, they're not going to know Namor. They're not going to know, Iron Man. Like even the big guns we know today, they just had no idea. So that wasn't a big thing, but they needed Star Wars. But Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, everybody knew these characters, at least the basic character, Joker, Penguin, Riddler.
Right.
So huge name recognition for the DC stuff. There's a huge bidding war. Kenner won out because their pitch was they're going to be able to do their superpower, which is why the line's called Superpowers. The toy can do their superpower. You will be able to activate a mechanism to let them punch or kick or fly or do whatever. And they were, of course, hollow. They had to engineer these mechanisms inside. So if you squeeze their arms or legs or whatever, it would activate some kind of mechanism to make the figure do stuff. Pretty amazing for the time, especially for the size and the form factor.
Yeah.
But what that did is it made them much more expensive than a Star Wars figure or anything else. And they can't have a price point much higher.
Sure. So
what they did the first year, '84, is they pumped out all the main characters. And the plan was, and this is what a lot of plan was, like Star Wars did the same kind of thing. The second year, they would start filling in the gaps, but they start having more secondary characters, more villains, more obscure stuff, and they continue to ship Wave 1 the life of the line. So Superman was always available. Flash was always available. And the others, they would play it by ear of what quantities to make, right? So by the end of year 2, year 3 is in production, right? Because you have like a year's lead time of having to design and produce and everything before things can get in the store. So year 3 is in production in China. Year 4 is already being sculpted. Everything's being done, which would have been '87. And summer of 85, Kenner basically said, okay, we got the first year sales back.
Oh, no.
Not a big hit. These are super expensive. Kill it.
Damn.
So year 3 got killed while it was in production. So they had a playset, which is the Tower of Darkness. Darkside's huge playset never came out. It's on the back of the package. You have a vehicle that never came out.
No.
It's on the back of the packages. And the figures that were in stages of production, the production line basically stopped. And because Cyborg is vac metallized, which is a more time-intensive procedure to vac metal something, he was, as far as I can tell, the last one in production.
That's amazing.
So all of Wave 3 has all of them, Plastic Man, Golden Pharaoh, Orion, all of these guys have a much lower run than the other waves, just in general. But then Cyborg, being the very last one out of the gate, has the very lowest run, and therefore he's, he was very hard to find when he came out.
Yes.
Like you could not find him. And I wasn't a collector. I didn't start collecting until college. I had no idea. I was aware Superpowers came out with Batman and Superman, and I was a comic collector. So I was huge into Marvel, a little bit into DC. My best friend was big into DC. So we'd get comics every week, and then we'd immediately trade each other's books at whoever's house we were at and read each other's books, then trade back our own books so we could go home and read what we bought, if that makes sense. Yeah. So every week we had like kind of a double dip in Marvel and DC. I got all Marvel, he got all DC. So in college, when he discovered a Green Arrow at a flea market, like brought it back, like flipping out, like they made a Green Arrow figure.
I had the Green Arrow. Yeah.
Did you really?
It was like 90. So we, it was really cool. So we started.
He lifted up his hands with the bow and arrow. He lifted it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Just hunting down all this stuff.
That's cool.
And that's most of those Star Wars you see behind me were mine. We picked up in college at flea markets, and they're all played with. They're all like cheap, like nothing's mint. We were just trying to get stuff we never had as kids, fill in all those gaps. And there was no internet. So the whole reason I became big and I got in the toy industry is because when the internet started in the mid 90s, I got into it in the World Wide Web. I realized those years I spent trying to figure out what just got made because there was no references. I would start making websites to just put this information online.
Oh, that's great. No, we have you
catalog it. Yeah, no, that's great. So Jason, I'm going to want to get into like the things that got you into toys in the first place. But first, just to kind of I want to put the bow on Superpowers, because we did talk about how like Superpowers was the key. That was the golden ring right there that people wanted because they were the characters that you knew, and no one really knew Marvel. But around that same time, Marvel did give us Secret Wars, and I'm curious because I was really fond of that line actually, and they've just. Look at that. That's Wolverine.
This is a fun game. Every time we say the name of a toy, Jason will just reach off screen and show it to us.
I was really fond of that line. And maybe because of the lack of articulation, like I always loved that Star Wars, the very stiff thing. Yeah. But they had the lenticular shields that kind of gave you a little bit of story of what was going on. And I'm very curious, and maybe you've got this info, maybe you don't. How did that perform?
It performed okay.
So Joel, at the time, like Secret Wars introduced, like there were, like it had Spider-Man, it had Doctor Doom, it had Captain America and Falcon, but then like he just held up. Like it was the first time you got Wolverine in an action figure form, and around that time,
100%,
Wolverine was not popular. Like he was, I loved him. But he really wasn't a household name, so it was always very interesting to me that like, wow, like that's really weird that somebody was like, we need a mold, we need something we can sell. Hey, that guy looks like Batman. Let's make him.
He does get him.
Okay, I just wrote the definitive article on Secret Wars, like the one I'm working on for Superpowers. That's in this new magazine called Toy Collector with no E at the end, and it just hit Barnes and Noble with my my issue. So I think it's issue 5 or 6 is out, but it's got pictures and everything. But I'm going to tell you the information right now. So here's the scoop on Secret Wars, which is very interesting. So Mattel lost out on Superpowers to Kenner, and they really wanted Superpowers. They wanted the DC license.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So they went after the next big thing. They called up Marvel and said, hey, we want to license your characters. And Marvel was like, license our characters? No one's even ever asked us that. Like they had Migos and stuff. But it was so much like, everybody wanted Superman and Batman, and Marvel was just kind of an afterthought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Jim Shooter, the editor-in-chief of Marvel at the time, sat down, and Mattel said, we want to license the characters, and we want you to make a special comic to promote these. It's a fairly famous story at this point. So they came up with Secret Wars. Mattel named it Secret Wars because their market research had showed them those two words triggered something in young boys.
Yeah.
Secrets and wars.
I have a secret about a war.
So they had absolutely no story, nothing to go with this. Just they gave them a name and said, we need a whole bunch of your characters to go in Secret Wars. So
that's hilarious.
Joel, it's one of the worst. Like it's I love the comic tie-in, but at the same time, it is one of the worst comic book crossovers like ever. If you were to read it, like the only issue that's kind of a full issue is number 1. Every subsequent issue after that recaps every single issue before it horribly. Like you get almost the entire story, to the point where the final issue of Secret Wars is like 3 or 4 pages of actual like new story and not a recap. It's so shameless.
And it's weird. And the weird thing is that's their next, the MCU's next big movie event coming up is going to be Secret Wars. But
can't wait.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, if you don't know about the comic, it was a 12-issue limited series, one comic a month, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the mandates that they did was this needed to have consequences for all of Marvel Comics. So a ton of things changed in the course of the story. Spider-Man got his black costume. The first time he switched costumes. She-Hulk joined the Fantastic Four. Some characters were left behind. Like lots of stuff happened throughout the story. Mm-hmm. But what happened in the regular books was 1 month, the last page, the characters disappear and go into the Secret Wars. And then the next month, they suddenly showed up having been changed by the Secret Wars. Yes. But Secret Wars at that point was only on issue 1 or 2.
Oh, no.
So you had to wait a year to figure out. Like they didn't tell you in the regular books. It was like suddenly Spider-Man just shows up with a black costume and they don't explain it.
Yeah. Ran out of budget for ink.
So it was a very strange event, but it was huge. Did huge sales. I think each issue was the top selling book of the month for comics for that year. That's funny. Right? And so they immediately did Secret Wars 2. It was a sequel, which was even worse.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
Just so crazy. But the toys, Mattel, meanwhile, could care less. They just wanted some kind of event to hype so they could sell toys. Mm-hmm. And so what I found out talking to the Mattel guys who worked on it, which is interesting because almost to a man, all the ex-Mattel employees were super bitter and, just nothing but griping and grudges. So whereas Kenner said, we're going to throw every resource imaginable into superpowers. We're going to put these mechanisms and they're going to be exactly like they looked in the comic. And we're going to do all this stuff. Mattel was already flying high with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, right? Mm-hmm. Which was completely their IP. They developed it. They got 100% of the cash back. Nothing's licensed. They licensed it out. They had a cartoon to go with it, et cetera, but it was all done in-house at Mattel. Secret Wars, not only were they going to have to give Marvel a cut for the licensing, but it occupied that same kind of heroic space as Masters of the Universe.
Conflict
Whereas
of interest.
Kenner, Star Wars was winding down. G.I. Joe didn't conflict with superpowers. They all had different scales and stuff. So Mattel wanted to compete with Kenner in this superhero realm. But what they ended up doing was, so there's like 3 torsos, 6 legs, 6 arms, and different heads. Almost all the details are painted on. I don't know if you can see this, Joel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They have some snap-on accessories, very limited sculpting, very limited everything. And of course, it feels like, and a lot of mix and match parts So you have like a lot of people at first glance think it's all the same figure that's just been repainted because they're all in a similar stance. They all look very much alike. No female figures.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to reuse.
Hardly any unique figures. So it's a really bizarre line, but the point of it was they called it a flanker brand. They said the whole point of Secret Wars is it can't take any sales away from Masters of the Universe. So it has to be dumbed down enough. It has to be bad enough that no one will pick it over a He-Man figure.
Wow.
But if they're not going to buy the He-Man figure, we still want to capture those sales. So it served this very bizarre purpose of who's not buying He-Man but might want a superhero.
Yeah.
But we can't
have
it overshadow He-Man. Yeah, and I found that out like 10 years ago. It had been a long time.
That's crazy.
Ago that I found that out, right? So
I love these stories, man. I love a little peek behind the curtain of how all this stuff is made, all the deals.
Yeah. No, I love
The
this.
licensing.
And the reason why, like, you've got different variants of Wolverine, like you have the Wolverine that has the silver claws, and then there was a Wolverine with black claws.
That's a running change. That's simply okay. And so this goes for a little bit for Kenner too, but definitely for Mattel. These are middle-aged white guys who don't read comics and don't watch cartoons.
Yeah.
And that was it. Toy design, I overlapped this period. I started it in the 90s and into the 2000s, where you had craftsmen that this just a career they went into because they like to design product, you know? So they looked at everything as just product to design. It's why Kenner made up superheroes for superpowers. And everybody's like, why weren't they using Swamp Thing or things that actually existed? Why are they making up characters like Golden Pharaoh? Well, because these guys didn't know what any of it was, and they had a cool mechanism that didn't fit any of the DC characters, so they're just going to make up a character so they can use their cool mechanism. Well, on the Secret Wars side, they didn't know who any of these characters were. They might have been some suggested by Marvel. The first wave, I think all of the figures appeared in the Secret Wars book. Yeah. And again, it's a weird mix. You've got Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Wolverine, right? That makes sense. And then you've got Kang, Doctor Doom, Doctor Octopus, and
I think it's like Baron Zemo or Hobgoblin.
Those were in the second wave. I'm trying to think
were they?
who the fourth. I've got them. I'm looking at them all on my shelf right now.
I have no doubt.
What I love about this is that, like, we've brought up toy lines that I'm not sure that Joel knows, but you know exactly what you have them at the ready to talk about them and display them. There. Yeah. And this is so fun for me because since I was 8 years old, I've had questions about these toy lines. Like, well, what happened here? And why was this way?
Ask a toy maker.
To finally get those answers and peel back the curtain. But I guess what I would love to know is what started you down this journey, Jason? What is the toy that you first became so passionate about that you were like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is my path.
So to be honest, I wanted to be an animator.
Hey, me too.
I wanted to work for Disney and be an Imagineer. And right when I went into college, they opened, I think, the 11th Disney store in the country in San Antonio. And I amazingly went through this crazy interview process, like 4 interviews to get hired. And then I had to go through a week-long orientation in a hotel. It was really crazy at the time.
He was groomed.
But I was hired for one of the first Disney stores because they thought it was going to be like an extension of the parks. So they made you go through Disney U and you were a cast member and everything just like the parks. And they had park people come in and train you, and Mickey and Minnie showed up for our grand opening and all this crazy stuff. To this day, still probably the worst job I've ever had relatively.
I've heard stories before about your experiences.
Just brutal. It beat all the want to be an animator out of me. So yeah, I don't know what I wanted to be. I was a film major. Again, my buddy just showed up one day with Green Arrow, and literally for 2 years, every weekend we were just circling garage sales and flea markets, and we were just finding stuff. So anything that looked cool toy wise, we were picking up. And then in college, I ended up going to Texas Tech in the early 90s. got online through just a happenstance of a professor talking to him and just saying, hey, do you want an email? One day, like 92, 93, before I even knew really what was up, what anything was. I taught myself HTML like immediately and started putting up websites because I had a passion. And again, I was going to school for mass communications, and I like learning almost nothing because I was just playing Doom and coding at night.
Yeah.
Toy websites. But people started writing me. I started breaking scoops. I started meeting other people kind of in this, like Usenet was the thing. There was no like social media. It was Usenet groups. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Usenet, but I was big into Usenet. So then that led to, I think, 96 San Diego Comic-Con. So I started a webpage that went for a few years with a bunch of the stuff. And I met a guy in Houston who was working for like MD Anderson Cancer Center, of all things, who was also doing a bunch of toy collector stuff. We hit it off, and so we merged our pages in like 95, 96.
Oh, you told me about this, yeah.
And became Raving Toy Maniac was our page, and it was the first big toy website, clearinghouse. We were featured on CNN. Like, and again, I was just getting out of school. I had no job. Like, I had to move back in with my parents. I couldn't find work with my mass comm degree.
Shocking.
And at the same time, what was crazy was San Diego Comic-Con called us and said, hey, we want to do toy panels and we don't know who to talk to.
Dude.
So is this something you guys would want to do, or do you want to, or do you know who to point us to? And so, we were like, sure. Like on 2 weeks notice, I had to like borrow a bunch of money to go out to Comic-Con. This is when you could get tickets like on 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
But we went out there, we did toy panels, and we had like the Four Horsemen and McFarlane toys and guys from Hasbro and everything else, because we had made a lot of contacts. And so from that, we went to Toy Fair. We were the first like website to be qualified as press. That took us months to convince them that we were press. We wore suits to Toy Fair.
Wow. Oh, God.
Because we had no idea what it was. Like, we didn't know what it was, and we were way overdressed, but a lot of the buyers are in suits.
Yeah.
But we met all the guys at Toy Biz and Art Asylum, and everyone knew everyone at like Wizard Magazine and all that kind of stuff. And you just meet all these industry people. One of my roommates in college went on to be a video game designer. He worked for Ensemble Studios that did Age of Empires and everything, and they were in Dallas. And so I had looked him up because I had like a stopover in Dallas, I think from one of the conventions. And he just said, hey, come up here. I can introduce you around. There's a lot of people I know, now in the industry. He had gone to the Art Institute. Mm-hmm. So I drove up and they were doing Jack in the Box toys.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So they were working on like Godzilla 98, I think, when I was there. And the first, the special edition cup toppers they did for Pepsi. A lot of cool stuff. And so I hit it off with them like big time, because his boss was like a huge comics nerd. He had like pages from Kerry Gamble and Steve Irwin and everything in the office.
Wow.
And I remember it was funny too, because he was like, because I said, oh, that's a Kerry Gamble page, because Kerry was always a favorite of mine, artist. He showed me the Steve Irwin page, and I said, I'm not sure. I think that might be Steve Irwin. And he's like, yes, and there's Steve Irwin right there.
Oh, whoa.
In this queue, because it was all like comic guys working there. Like Pat Broderick worked in the building. And
I assume you're not talking about the Crocodile Hunter, by the way. Not that Steve.
No, it's a different person.
Different. In fact, when he died, and my sister, I was staying at home for the holidays, and my sister woke me up and said, hey, they just announced in the news Steve Irwin died. And I just thought
it was the other guy.
How do they know who Steve Irwin is? Why would his death make the news? I still know him. He's still around today. Still designing toys. Anyway, that was it. So I had no training. I knew nothing about it. I could draw and paint. I could do sculpting a little bit. And I had been to Toy Fair and knew everything about toys. And they needed a person and kind of took a flyer on me. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I did a lot of, I was a very junior position, a lot of on-the-job learning. Right when that started, one of our first big pitches was to make life-size characters for Phantom Menace.
There you go.
And I've had online, and it's like rejected Star Wars concepts. that everyone says like George Lucas rejected these, but I don't think he ever saw them. Like Pepsi rejected them and everything, but they were like the Han and Carbonite fridge and the Death Star grill.
Wait.
And
I want both of those.
Bantha slippers and that. But they wanted to do these life-size characters, and so I was
problem with Bantha slippers is that you can only really have one.
yeah, you gotta hop.
Hide your numbers.
But we had all these crazy things, and they just wanted to make life-size Jar Jars and Yodas, and they sent me to China on one day's notice, and I lived there for 4 months at a factory.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Because we had like 6 months to make 40,000 life-size characters for displays, and nobody knew how to do it. Like we sold it in without knowing really how to do it, just on the wow factor, because we were a startup. Yeah. We needed something to get the company off the ground. So, we convinced Lucasfilm we could do it, but then it was too much. Like we couldn't go, and that was back in the days of no email. Like they wouldn't let us do anything over email because of secrecy. What? You had to fly everywhere.
Oh,
wow.
So I'd have to go to Skywalker Ranch every time we had to discuss a change. It was really crazy.
Yeah, and you told me stories about that time, which kind of boggled my mind, and how so you were one of the first people, I guess outside of Lucasfilm, who saw the new designs for Jar Jar. And
we came actually kind of late in the process, but definitely like a year and a half before the movie came out. So I just happen to have this.
Here's his Yoda.
Oh my
Jason's
gosh!
Holding a.
This is a test of the life-size Yoda, and the green was I think this was a hair test.
Man, that's terrifying.
It actually looks much better than it looked like
that's terrifying
in the movie.
Yeah, so if you look, you see that they've drawn on the sides of the hair where the hairline is.
Yes.
And they'd like ship a bunch of like 7 of these to me, and I'd have to approve them. This is my favorite. This is rare.
Wow.
So this is Neckbeard Yoda.
Neckbeard Yoda.
So this is
that's so weird.
He's got a mask of Yoda with some what looks like stubble.
This is a hair test for Watto's beard. It is.
I see.
It's Watto's stubble, and it's punched in by hand. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh my
that
gosh.
was horrifying.
So it's punched in by hand, and then glue is like swabbed on the back to hold it into place. That's how it works. It's like real hair.
It's like real hair.
So I don't know if you can see. There's
here we
Maul
go.
right there.
Oh, there's the
Watto
Darth Maul
too.
in the corner. And
so he's got all my lanyards from all my shows.
Those are life size. Those look amazing.
Jedi mind the trick.
And there's Maul with his Texas flag and a saber because I broke the blades.
That's terrifying, by the way. Just walk into that room with no lights on. I'd be like,
I can't believe you have that sitting there.
And for Halloween, I'll put a flashlight under his head and put him on my front door.
Lord.
Used to scare the kids.
Oh my God.
So that's where I learned everything about toys.
And since we were kind of doing an AMA with Jason here, because I was a fan of the Strawberry Shortcake line, but mostly because of the smell. You remember Strawberry Shortcake, Joe?
Yeah, it's part of the commercial.
Yeah.
Strawberry Shortcake, now you're looking well. Cute little doll with a strawberry smell.
Yeah, there you go.
They're actually bringing it back right now. I'm telling you, Joel.
Are they really?
Oh, no.
Now, are they going to smell? Because that was the best part about it.
I think so.
Yeah, you can't do Strawberry Shortcake without the scent.
Not if they package that smell from China, Joel. You can't
That's right.
smell
You can't have
Chinese
Chinese
strawberries.
Some Karen is going to complain about it. Huh?
My kid tried to eat the toy.
How did they do that, Jason? Do you know how they got the smell? Was it literally
Perfume.
I think it's just like cologne. I think it's just
sprayed on the
into
doll.
the.
Somehow I thought it was like infused into the plastic because it sticks around for a while.
That's it. I think it's just like pouring perfume into the plastic.
Oh, there
so
you
at
go.
some point in the process, it's injected in. So it is. Yeah, I think it's infused in the plastic.
I think we need more of that. I miss my toys smelling like things. Blueberry pies.
You are opening up the doorway to some horrible stuff, though. One of my questions involves the Luke Skywalker figure from the Return of the Jedi line. And the fact that, and maybe it's just me, but it always seemed like his nose was always rubbed. It was always rubbed off.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you why that is. That's just some engineer at the factory or Kenner made the bubble too shallow.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So when they put these together, obviously the face is painted. So what happens in manufacturing, and I'm going to show you this little test shot.
Yeah.
So this is just done with whatever plastic they find,
It's the Rocketeer,
to do the test shots. That's why you get them off color. And then the painted one, this is a plastic sample, but it's every color is painted. So they sent me this so I would approve the colors, right? Because we did Paint Masters. Like I did 3D prints, and me and some other guys I hired painted them. And then they send those to China. Hopefully I don't lose them because we only have one of each. And then they send me these back months later saying we matched your colors as best we could. Call out any specific colors.
That's awesome.
Right? And it's like, talking about toy manufacturing, you have to figure out all like the legal and get them all stamped on the bottom with all the different copyrights and stuff. So what they do in manufacture is like this leg, especially this leg piece, they're going to mold in that color. The boot, though, they may mold in black and paint. That's why sometimes you see paint doesn't quite match because one might be a molded plastic color because they're going to look at the majority of this piece, so they use as little paint as possible. And you get lines like McFarlane especially, or some of these where they want them to look the best. They might be like this, where they cast them all in white and they paint everything.
Wow.
And then you get paint rub and stuff on the joints. Like it's all, you have to make some put a lot of thought into it. So to that point, Luke's head obviously was probably molded in his hair color, and his face is painted on. And it's all done really quick. Like these spray masks, it's just one guy is doing the face and then someone else is doing the eyes and the eyebrows, you know? And they're, oh my God, they've got a metal mask someone made that has a cutout of his head, and this is what they're doing. They're grabbing it out of a tray, holding it up to that metal mask, spraying it, drop it in another bucket, pick another one, spray it, drop it in another bucket. The next guy is picking it up, and you have a mask cut out with the eyes and the eyebrows, and he's just spraying it, dropping it, spraying it, dropping it. So that's how it goes. Goes down the conveyor belt, gets put in the packaging. Someone checks it, gets put in the packaging. So that paint has not been on the face very long. When it gets put in the packaging, that bubble's so shallow, that plastic touches the end of the nose. Because so Flash and Superpowers had the exact same problem.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Okay.
And so if they make a mistake like that, that's the whole run, because these are not like, those tolerances are 100%. What we're having trouble with right now, you can see with him, is them getting to get his fin straight, which is driving me insane.
I see it. Yep. Rocketeer's got a bent fin.
So I keep getting new samples where they're not. That's a lot better.
That's tough.
And they get harder and they get softer, and they do that. So you do a lot of back.
How do you solve for that? You got to put a piece of styrofoam or something to hold it in place during transit?
Well,
or turn his head when they package it.
So what they have to do, they're probably going to have to actually make it a little thicker.
Yeah.
They're going to so here's what you have to weigh. Getting a little nerdy, so anyone who they can't see this, the head has to be the durometer has to be hard enough so this fin stays straight and nothing deforms, but it has to be soft enough that you can still pop it on and off the peg without ripping the peg off.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so, yeah. Good call.
And you have different kinds of plastics, different kinds of materials. So there's all these things
that... a lot of trial by error, huh?
Yeah, that you don't know when you're necessarily making it. So they're probably going to make it a bit thicker and a little harder. And then what they do, because everything's hot when it comes out of the thing. So it's hot when it comes out of the injection molder. They dip it in cold water to set it. And so they have to make sure when they dip it, it's not bent, because it'll be set bent
forever,
or retain the memory of that. And when they put it in the package, he'll have to come up off enough the package. That inner tray is going to have to lift him up enough, and then have a slice cut out where that fin fits exactly in, and it's going to trap it.
Oh my God.
And hopefully, if they've engineered it right, it's straight. If it's slightly off, they're going to trap it and it's going to get warped.
Yeah.
Something happened, used to drive me nuts. It's Mattel again. Not one of my favorite companies, by the way.
No.
Confessions of a Toy Maker.
So they did a bunch of DC superheroes in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And they dynamically posed them in the package so they look cool on shelf. But every time you took them out, their arms and legs were warped like crazy because they used super soft plastic, and posing them in the plastic tray deformed them. So they were like literally forcing them to be deformed so that they would look, because Hasbro, Kenner have always been companies driven by engineering.
Okay.
So you had engineers up until recently, this is historically. So G.I. Joe and all that. Again, you look at that G.I. Joe line, that is engineers designing all of these ships and everything of how cool can we make this?
Yeah.
Mattel has always been driven by marketing. So to them, the packaging and the PR is always much more important than the toy. That's why Barbie's so simplistic. Yeah. It's not going to win design awards, or wouldn't back in the day. Again, as collectors entered the industry, a lot of this changed, and a lot of technology changed it, because it used to be literally engineers would come out of school. Do I want to make cars or do I want to make toys? Because it's both manufacturing, that kind of stuff. Marketing would come out. And again, you go to these companies and you have people marketing, and I see it in fast food too. They don't care about toys. They never collected toys. They don't know who anything is. It's just a stop in their career. This is where I have to pay my dues and do that.
That's too bad. It's a lost art.
Yeah, I'll give you one good anecdote, because I think you guys will like this. My boss told it to me. He worked at McDonald's before I worked with him in the mid-90s. And they had the Marvel license. And they always do, like they were going to have half figurines that did something and half characters in the little cars, right? And I think it would tie into all the Marvel cartoons that were on at the time. Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, all that, Hulk were going on. And so what they did is they designed sets that made sense. So here's a set of X-Men in cars, or here's a set of Fantastic Four figurines, or here's a set of Avengers in cars and figurines. And so the woman in charge, who again doesn't know anything about the characters, doesn't know anything about toys, just a stop in her career on the ladder, looked at all of them and said, well, I'm going to pick a la carte. I like this one, this one, this one, this one, because of how they look. And they said, well, you picked 3 of the Fantastic Four and the Hulk. And they kind of don't go together because you don't have the full team. And she's like, well, sure you do. You've got 4 of them. You've got the Human Torch, Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic, and the Hulk. That's the Fantastic Four. And they're like, no, it doesn't work that way. And she looked at him and said, then give the Hulk blue pants and he's part of the team, and left. And if you look at the toys now, people ask, why does the Hulk have blue pants in the McDonald's toys? That's why the Hulk has blue pants.
That's crazy.
Wow.
It's because they designed the thing and the Hulk was a different assortment, but she liked the Hulk. And so they were forced to give him blue pants.
That's so nuts. That's so nuts. I'm looking at some of the listing of it too. I actually have the Wolverine from that line. Look at that Hulk with his blue pants.
Isn't that great?
Oh my God. Hey, so let me ask the toy expert this. Ask the toy maker. What is the most popular toy that you think is just trash? You don't understand why it got so huge.
Oh, that's a great question.
I'll tell you right off the bat.
Here we go.
The Funko Pops, I think, are just garbage.
Oh,
but
no. I have like 20 of them behind me.
And now they're paying for it because they overproduce and everything. But I think there's a lot of that. And I don't want to, like, I know a lot of people at these toy companies and everything, but I do think Funko is it. I think Funko especially had so much money and so much talent, and they just half-assed so much for so long. The quality of their stuff could have been a lot better. When they brought back those reaction figures, they were dog shit, and they almost killed a whole section of figures. And right now, Hasbro's kind of doing the same thing. Almost all their Star Wars toys are pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Their retro, all their retro lines, like those retro Indiana Jones, terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. I don't know. I think part of it is institutional. I think a lot of these companies get into this whole, we have 4 hours to spend on this. They get allotments, and they're like, they just kind of get it out the door. There's a lot of lines like Marvel Legends where I think it's an amazing line, but they have so much reuse and so many weird choices now a lot of times. And some of my good friends are working on that line. So I don't want to say too many bad things about it, but
has there been a significant shift, like from people that, like you clearly have a passion for toys, and you're like, you're into it. And I have to imagine that, like, there had to have been a time in this industry where the toys were being made by people who were passionate about the toys.
I think there's I think there's 3 stages. And I think there are still people who are very passionate about the toys. I think there's a difference. And I think we see it in a lot of stuff just because of how industry happened. I think of how careers happen. So when you look at the stuff of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, again, they weren't like comic fans or movie fans or anything. They were craftsmen. And so they were always trying to make the best toy they could make. They weren't trying to make the best Wolverine they could make. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, that's why you got so much great stuff. And that's kind of why it's just eating its own tail now, is you have almost nothing. And this is what's happening with movies too. You have almost no original IP. You don't have a G.I. Joe or a Barbie or even a Ninja Turtles or something.
That's right.
Everything has to be based off retro. It has to be based off known hits. And this started happening in the 90s, and we would talk about it is at a certain point, you would have to have, you would take a chance on something you developed, even though you're not paying licenses, or you could go after Batman.
Right.
And if you look at like Batman the Animated Series, you look at like all that stuff that came out then, and people would say, you've got this whole DC universe and all I'm getting is like 30 Batman repaints and 1 Superman and maybe a villain.
Right.
You know, it was just like, why does a kid want all these Batmen? And I would ask that. We would all ask that. And the answer is, we have to have a home run every time.
Yeah.
And if Batman sells 20,000 figures and Joker sells 18,000 figures, and even Superman sells 17.5 thousand figures, we're going to make another Batman instead of either of those characters because we want that home run.
Yeah.
Because that's going to pay for our overhead,
It's the economics.
because the company's growth, it was no longer a few people working at a toy company. They had hundreds of employees. So it became, we always have to have the biggest hit.
Yeah.
And then that started, again, just eating the tail of, you're only chasing the biggest hit, and when those don't work anymore, like what happened after Phantom Menace, like Hasbro had his record year with Phantom Menace toys. The next year, there wasn't a new Star Wars movie, and their sales just went in the dump. It almost killed the company.
Wow.
Like they were talking about mergers with Mattel. Like it was almost catastrophic.
Oh my gosh.
It really was huge, and it was nothing they necessarily did. They just kind of, bet the farm. And this is what just happened with Funko. Everyone was buying Pops during the pandemic, so they built this giant warehouse in Phoenix and just like over leveraged the company, and they just had to trash $30 million worth of
Oh
merchandise.
my God, really?
Because they can't afford to warehouse it.
Those
they
things
can't
are
even afford
everywhere.
for someone to come claim it.
Yeah.
Of everything.
They had to get rid of it immediately and just get it out there. So it's those kind of things where it's not a very healthy industry. And of course, kids are playing video games.
Yeah.
This is the other thing. There's no toy stores, which is crazy with what we grew up with.
I know.
When I was designing Wendy's toys in Santa Monica, California, in walking distance, meaning like in a few blocks of my office, we had Warner Brothers store, Disney store, Toys R Us, Heidi Ho Comics,
Remember Katie?
Puzzle Zoo, Discovery Store, which had toys, Suncoast, Electronic Games, Hot Topic,
Yeah.
KB
KB's.
Toys,
Yeah.
Tower Records. All of that was right within a couple of blocks, and we could go get toys at any. And Kid Robot had their big
Kid
store
Robot,
there. And Disney Store. I don't know if I said Disney Store. All of that just within walking distance that I could go out every day. I think Kid Robot might still be there, but none of the others exist.
Wow.
They're all gone.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
That's sad.
Yeah. And when Toys R Us went, they had driven out all the mom and pops. KB had closed because of all the leverage debt. And so if you're a toy manufacturer, where outside of Amazon and Walmart, what do you have? What venues do you have?
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing small runs of toys.
Yeah. I mean, you've got it seems like now you just kind of put your eggs in the Target basket, or you're going through GameStop. That's where I'm seeing majority of it. Now, I know you've mentioned a couple times now that video games led to the decline of toys, traditional toys, and I know they tried to put it together with like Skylanders, Disney Infinity. They even with the Amiibo still for Nintendo, they've tried to kind of do that the toy tie-in, and more often than not, we've seen it met with horrible results. Like maybe there's a quick spike in popularity, but then it goes away. I'm looking at right now, I have got a lawyer box of Disney Infinity figures.
There you go.
Almost the entire run sitting in it.
Okay.
They were beautiful, but yet there wasn't enough support behind maintaining
that's not
that,
true.
it seemed.
Well, let me give you a little background on that, which was a weird thing.
Sure.
I can't say if it was a good idea or a bad idea, to be honest, but it was a weird idea. So Amiibo, I think, is still going. They don't do a ton. You still see them in Targets, probably Walmart still has a few. Skylanders, I don't know if they're still around, but Skylanders was huge for at least a short period of time, but Skylanders was huge. And of course, Pokemon, the godfather of all this stuff.
That's right.
So what happened with Disney Infinity was Disney decided they were going to make their own toys. Like be a toy company instead of license it out. And they were going to start a division for this. And I think John Lasseter might have been the first one in charge of coming up with that look. Like the Pixar Brain Trust, I'm pretty sure was behind a lot of it. And they hired specific designers. Like I think they had everybody do looks, and then they picked the one guys they liked or whatever. And then they said, okay, you're going to be in charge of this whole team. You're going to come up with this look for everyone.
They look great. I love this style.
They were really neat. And you remember, I had a few in my office.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had all the Star Wars ones at one point, but I didn't open them and I took them back because I came to my senses. I was like, what are you doing? Because I didn't have the game. I was just buying all the little figures. But it's too hard to get that kind of interactivity. They should have just done figurines because they were too expensive for what they were, which were just little solid figures. So Skylanders were much cheaper, did it better. And there were a lot of pitfalls because they were a brand new company trying to figure, I just showed you all this crazy stuff that happens with manufacturing toys. I don't think they really understood what a pain it was going to be to make their own things, to licensing it to someone else. Because they thought they'd have all the control. And dealing with China, you have no control. Like it's just headaches. You have to have someone embedded there. So, and then they just didn't sell enough, like everything. They weren't the home run.
Yeah.
And so Disney, when they went through upheaval and everything, shortly after that, they just said, well, we're just going to pull the plug. And they had a lot designed. They had a lot ready to go.
Oh, really?
Because the plans were to continue it for quite a while with Classic and stuff. And I just think that what they wanted to do, that game just didn't take off enough. Like they really didn't treat it like a Star Wars. It was very narrow.
Yeah.
They should have had that
tied to the fate of that video game.
More of blown. And I mean, they blew it out pretty good, but it was also really weird with here's classic Disney, here's new Disney, here's Pixar, here's Star Wars, here's, they tried to be a little too much for everything all at once instead of introducing one land at a time. So I think it was just kind of disjointed, but Disney Store still basically has those toys and that form factor with their toy box. I think
that's right. It is. It's called Toy Box. I remember talking to a cast member, and I was like, these look a lot like the Disney Infinity figures. Are they related at all? And she's like, good eye. Yeah. They ended up using the same designers to put these together. I was like, I loved the design. Like, I thought these were beautiful. I played the game a bunch. I like I said, I've got a box with all of them, and basically, if you have all of the figures, you unlock the lightsaber that you can run around with. Yeah. And I have definitely done that. But yeah, I kind of felt like this is kind of nice. I wish that there was a little bit more thought and care that kind of went into the video game side support of it.
Yeah. And the thing too is because of again the expense to try to do all this. I mean, now it would be impossible, I think, with Toys R Us gone for someone to launch something like that. It's just too hard.
Yeah. I mean, Nintendo tried with I can't remember what it was called. It didn't last long at all, but it was like they tied in Star Fox and some original IP too, and you could kind of like scan those character codes into the game and use them.
That's it. It's too much.
Yeah.
Go here, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know in our industry with Joel, we do these interactive things with QR codes and stuff, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But you don't have like, oh wow, everybody's going to run out and do this, scan this in the grocery store. Yeah, so it's those kind of things. Like I feel if Infinity had hit 2004, 2005, would have been a massive hit.
Yeah, I
think it's too little too late. And especially now, like it's just too hard. Everything's too expensive. And again, I'm proud of what we've done with these little figures. They did not sell. We passed I will be lucky to see a dime from this. And it's a year's worth of work. Then it was a learning experience. I learned a lot. It's great. I'm happy I did it. But I'm not doing a wave 2 if people don't buy them. They're selling just enough to pay for themselves. But all my labor is free. It's not like I'm getting paid for my work because it's my line. But I think a big part is there's no way for us to get the word out.
Yeah.
All we can do is put it on social, advertise it online. We ran, thankfully a lot of the creators really promoted us. Like I made special desktop signage for guys at Comic-Con who had the booth signing, like Ed Powell with the Goon and Mike Allred for Madman and stuff. So they really pushed it on their social media. Some of them ran ads in their comics, but still, we don't have a wizard anymore.
That's right.
You don't have these kind of central things. Some of the comic websites featured it, but it's like a here and gone in like an hour, and it's pushed down the headlines. We bought some ads, but they don't go anywhere. It's just the weirdest thing of, I think we could have had big sales if they're in a Target or a Toys R Us, but you can't get them in a Target or Toys R Us because you don't have the big sales to make them to get them in there.
It's like, we can't give you this job because you don't have the experience. Well, how do I get the experience if you don't give me the job?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is this thing of like, if the Rocketeer comes back around, we have a feeling that people are going to really want these once they're in hand and delivered.
Bro, this person really wants it. I wish Joel had told me that this was happening.
Yeah.
Because I would have thrown down for it.
I don't know what the situation is yet with if we're making any extras or anything, but let me see what I can do.
Oh, please.
Do you want to Rocketeer? Let me see what I can do.
Absolutely. Which, I guess brings me to my next question, and maybe my final one. We've been on here for a while, and we could probably split this into 2 different episodes and even do more. But
I think we'll have to.
What is like a toy that has never been made that you wish to God somebody would get on top of it?
Mine used to be that Unicron, but I think they finally went and did it, didn't they? The crazy sons of bitches.
HasLab, I think, did it.
Yeah.
Again, you had to pay basically to get it made. Like they did their crowdfunding thing to make these giant stuff.
But that was always one of my dreams. Yeah. Ever since seeing the movie, I was like, yes, I would buy that word available. And I had expendable income.
I always liked him more, though, as like the Planet Eater. When he turned into like chubby robot, I was like, I'm not quite as scared of Unicron anymore.
With the Fu Manchu.
Kind of weird. I don't know. There was just something a little more mysterious, a little more dangerous.
Yeah.
So, you know what? More tactile. I wanted to play with the toy when he was the Planet Eater. When he was the robot, I was just like, what do I even do with you right now? What about you, Jason?
I mean, I love ad icons. I really wish they show up every now and then. You might get like Monster cereals or Chester Cheetahs finally coming out. Amazingly, for the first time, they're having a Chester Cheetah figure. I wish that there was a comprehensive line. One thing I started collecting, and I used to have in my office when Joel got hired, I used to have in my office, was Funko back when it was basically a different company. They started doing wacky wobblers, the head bobbers.
Oh, yes.
And they had this great business model, the original owner, where they just went to all of these different licenses and said, we want a license for like this 3-month period because we're only going to make 1,000 of these or 5,000 or whatever. And we're going to make them the one character, sell through, and then we're done with the license. It's not exclusive. We just want to make this one thing. A lot of companies went for it, but because they did such small runs, and again, it was 20 years ago when plastic was cheaper and they could do this and sell them for $10 each.
Yeah. I
But
have my Ash Wacky Wobbler still in the closet.
Yeah. I had all the ad icons because they had so many you would never see. The Honey Nut Cheerios Bee, the Gorton Fisherman,
Yeah.
Outback Kangaroo.
That's so cool.
You know, Ready Kilowatt. Like, it was just crazy what
I love that.
they just busted through. Bartles and James, you know.
Mhm.
So I love those. I love those. But you can't sell more than a few, and now it's too expensive to make if you're only making a few.
Yeah.
So bad.
Wow. You know, it's
annoyed.
funny. You had brought up just to kind of circle back to Funko for a second, and like the quality of the product. You reminded me, and she sits on my shelf. I've got a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who this is before they would market like stands. They didn't make stands, and she was so narrow at the bottom and so top
fall
heavy.
over.
You have to lean her up against something, or else she's going to fall over.
That's bad design.
That was
Terrible.
horrible design.
Terrible.
I guess.
Speaking of stands,
look at that.
Camera can't see that, but look, that's a 3D print I was just playing with for all the different lines. Can you see that?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it say? I
Oh,
can't
the
read the words.
superpowers.
Oh,
It's
it's
the
just, I see it. I see it
It's
now.
the Superpowers logo
Yes, with the stars.
that I did, and they all
That's awesome.
they all fit.
God,
so.
Thank God
great.
for 3D printing. I know it's amazing what
I
you're
know.
able to do.
Why isn't
nowadays.
anyone doing that?
I guess for me, it is more of a selfish thing. And I think I told Joel this on the last episode. I don't know if it made it into the final episode. I do
Probably not.
Like I do voices. I'll do English dubs for anime and stuff. And we
That's
we just recently did a show called Dawn of the Witch, where I got to play I got to voice this character named Kudo, and he's like this lizard wizard, kind of guy. And the best I can do if I get online and I find the right, anime shop site or whatever, I can find like an acrylic figure or something. But if you're not a Naruto or one of the like the big ones, a Dragon Ball Z,
Yep.
you're not going to see a figure of these characters, and that's just been it's like, oh God, like there's so many cool anime properties that don't go for like 40 seasons that I wish, could get this same treatment.
And 20 years ago, oh my God, the stuff that was made in Japan that never came here, like anything, the most obscure stuff, they would make it.
Yeah.
And they've got those vending machines, which is always crazy, where they have like 1,000 toys per month in the vending machines of everything.
Yeah.
And they're just cranking them out. I will say, now that I'm thinking about it, there is one thing I don't think has ever had any
Oh,
toys.
here we go.
And probably that heyday has passed, but I just can't understand why nobody's never made PVCs or something. And that's Schoolhouse Rock. I always thought
yes.
that a series of Schoolhouse
do.
Rock merchandise.
They do.
What? Who?
There's a
Who? Where?
I think Funko has started doing the keychains, the blind bag keychains
What?
of Schoolhouse Rock.
Like the mystery mini.
The mystery
kind of
mini
things?
kind of things. Yeah, I was just at a comic
I
shop
have not seen that.
He's Googling it right now.
last week. Yeah, I took my daughter to a comic shop and ended up grabbing one of those blind bag things of Dungeons and Dragons because I just adore that new movie, for better or worse.
What?
But yeah, Schoolhouse Rock was definitely sitting there.
Blowing Jason's mind right now.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Today's your lucky day. Your dreams have come true,
That's
Jason.
exactly it. They're
I love it.
keychains.
That's what we do on this podcast.
Oh wow!
We
Yeah.
make dreams come true.
He's brought me so much joy tonight that I'm so happy I could bring him.
I know.
some back.
I knew we'd be able to get him on here. He would just have a ton of stories. Every now and then he'll bust some of these stories out at work.
Well, Jason, anytime you want to come back and talk with us, the door is always open. Would love to have you on again to like deep dive into some other stuff. Hey, tangentially related, are the toy companies really saving the environment by going box only packaging without the bubbles? Or
That's already gone.
oh, is it gone?
Yeah, Hasbro. I honestly
no is your answer.
don't know if that was a PR. No, okay, number one, that's not doing jack shit.
Yeah.
It is really crazy that they're like, we're saving. It's like recycling.
Mhm.
You'll hear me talk about this. Recycling probably causes more pollution at this point. If everybody recycled and everything got repurposed, but if you look at the energy it takes to recycle something and the small scale it's being done, and it's just really like upper middle class suburban areas that are even half caring about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they follow these trucks and they're not even doing it. Like they're actually just dumping it in the dump.
Are you kidding me? Don't tell me
so
that.
I think it does more harm than good, because I think it acts as a, placebo for people to think they're doing a good job to do this. And it's just like theater.
There's probably 100 times more
because
plastic in the actual toy itself than that goes into that little window.
Well, and it's frustrating as a collector who doesn't want to open it and just display it. I don't know if what I bought is even in there.
No, and that's the problem. Is a lot of people buy things, swap them out, reseal them, and you're stuck. And it's been a kind of a dismal failure, and it's going away. They re-engineered. Some of them have plastic. I think some of them just have like window boxes where they're trapped. So it's a cutout you can see, but you can't take the figure out.
Yeah.
We have, it's like all these things, to get on my soapbox for half a second. Well, it's like volunteerism on anything is never going to solve these problems. If they want to solve the plastic problem, they're going to have to outlaw plastic. I mean, it's in everything. It's in our bodies.
Yeah.
Like we are so full of microplastics right now. The oceans are full of all this. Like we're 20 years too late to be having that discussion. And this is someone who works in manufacturing and uses a lot of plastic. Literally almost everything. Just look around you, how much freaking plastic our lives are.
Oh my God, that's so depressing. I'm like looking at it.
It is.
So
there's no stop to it. Look at every food product. That's what's so funny is like, oh, a few thousand toys may not have a window blister. Meanwhile, Hostess is making 10 million Twinkie wrappers out of plastic.
Exactly.
Like it's not gonna remotely change anything. So I think it was a PR ploy.
Okay.
I think it was honestly, or maybe someone at Hasbro had something in their heart where they thought it was a good idea. But I think more than anything else, it was a talking point, and it was terrible for sales and terrible for collectors and anyone buying their products. So
know your audience.
It's already being reversed.
There you go.
It really not smart.
All right. Well, that's so great. Come for the toy discussion, and then we're going to talk about conservationism and how useless it really is. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Dude,
this
has been really
awesome.
No problem. It's always fun.
Hands down, the best episode. This has been so much fun talking to you about this stuff.
Learned so much.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just stuck here with Joel every week, I don't learn anything. I just laugh at his dumb jokes.
This is your new host, Jason Geyer. Welcome.
Yeah.
I look forward to listening to you guys next week. No, this has been fantastic. You've got an open invitation anytime you want to come on back. Please join us.
Thanks.
But you know what? Before we wrap this thing up, I just want to remind our listeners, you can catch us online at lowreshighDef.com or, catch us on social media at lowreshighDef. Jason, where can people find you?
Usually just working.
I mean,
not literally.
If they want to support your products, if any projects.
His address is 1184.
Yeah, if you my Instagram is going to be my most active. So if you go to Instagram/ToyOtter, you're going to find links to pretty much everything else, and you can find our toy line if you search Longbox Heroes at BigBadToyStore.com. bbts.com. You can see which figures are still for sale.
Very cool. I'm going to go on over there right now. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I mean, this is super long, but also extra special episode of Low Res High Def. Again, Jason Geyer, thank you so much. Fantastic guest. Joel, thank you, sir.
Pleasure's always a pleasure. Whatever I say. You threw me off. You say always a pleasure, and then I say the pleasure's all mine.
I love when your lizard brain takes over.
This does not compute.
Just go with your learned behavior.
God bless you.
All right, guys, we'll catch you next week. And also with you.
You've been listening to the Next Wave Radio Network.
That's fucking gold.